from Alan West, who summarized the problems liberals have with race.
I'm speaking from experience when I tell you that there's nothing on this green earth that a liberal progressive fears more than a black American who wants a better life and a smaller government.
And here's South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who summarized why jobs beat the liberal bribe, i.e. handouts.
Having a job is a good thing, but creating jobs is a far better thing. He said, if you have an income, that's a good thing. But if you create a profit, you can do the most amazing things.
So what do West and Scott have in common? Well, if you work at the New York Times, you'd probably call them tokens. That's what you say when you see a black guy who doesn't act the way you want a black guy to act. You never say it to their face, however, because someone like West would use your forehead as a stepladder. But it's no surprise Scott and West are Republicans. The Democrats have a past. Someone I work with who lectures me on race every day once called me Bull Connor, Birmingham's commissioner of public safety who used fire hoses and attack dogs on blacks in the 1960s. My pal left out that the thug was a Democrat. Didn't fit the story. A lot of stuff doesn't. The Democrats supported slavery and opposed amendments to wipe it out and give blacks the right to vote. They were pro-segregation, supported racist candidates, created Jim Crow, had a former Klansman, Robert Byrd, as a top senator, and used the KKK as their cudgel. Of course, the media rarely ever brings that up, or that Republicans helped pass the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So how does the Democratic Party influence help blacks now? Well, illegitimacy is up around 70%. It's not much rosier for urban squalor and imprisonment. Those Democratic programs have caused more damage than Hurricanes Katrina and Sandy combined. Yet nearly all black voters go Democrat. That's why guys like West and Scott must fight the lying liberal media and remind black America of the abusive relationship they've endured for so long. They may not be in the back of the bus anymore. They're just under it.
Being hard-hitting.
I want you to emphasize it was not me that said you about Bull Connor, okay?
You called me Bull Connor twice.
I did?
You're
Yes.
outed now.
Yeah, you called me Bull Connor. I didn't know who Bull Connor was. I confess. So I looked it up and I go, wow.
I apologize.
He's a Democrat. You were no, you were actually complimenting me, I think.
Oh.
You're saying that because he's a Democrat, right?
Okay.
Yeah. KG, what should conservatives do to attract minorities? Should they act like Democrats and give away free stuff?
I think they should be for the education of children, not just in public schools chasing after empty federal dollars that don't produce good results, because they're more interested in keeping the union schools going, appeasing teachers. I'd rather see us move towards charter, voucher schools, things like that. Education is very important to all parents, but especially to try and attract children who are left behind, minority populations in inner cities that are failing behind because they're not provided the same opportunities of other children that are able to attend and go to private schools. So for me, I think that would be something that would work and help.
Bob, when you see when somebody legitimately believes that certain programs don't work and they say certain programs don't work, must they be accused of being cold and callous?
No, they don't. But let's keep in mind, I listened to both Scott and West, and they gave good speeches. And they both said that the messages, the inherent principles of the Republican Party, were best for minorities. My answer to that is, then take your message into those communities. Listen to this. The statistic, 48% of the public voted for Republicans for the House of Representatives. Only 48%, and yet they control 52% of the House seats, because these seats are becoming increasingly more white and less minority. And the Democrats are grabbing them off when they can.
You mean in the districts?
The districts
across America.
Yeah, right. The districts are. And so in a way, the problem, I think, for the Republicans is they've got to get in and engage this debate if they think they've got something to sell.
Good point.
Well, I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
In a way, I mean, it takes time, but these two messengers are younger, very accomplished, one in military, one in business, but both willing to commit themselves to public service. What I like is the idea of the individualism that both of them basically are so grounded, and they are so self-confident that I sometimes wonder, like, wow, I wish I was even more like that. I mean, I think it's not just a message for African Americans. It's one for all of us could learn from them. I did today.
You're definitely an underachiever, Dana.
I am. I have very little self-confidence.
I know.
She's only scratched the surface so far of what she could accomplish.
That is true.
No, but I hear
things.
that, and I hear them speaking, and it's with such assuredness, and you know that comes from their core. They cannot be anybody than who they are, which I love.
What do you think, Eric?
I think we need to distinguish the difference between conservatism and republicanism. I think these guys were talking for conservatives, not necessarily Republicans, as Bob may have mentioned it. But let's not conflate the two. These guys talked at CPAC. I also think it's a little dangerous. He's a good friend of mine, Alan West. He and I, we email, we talk to each other. It's a little dangerous to bring up the race card in this setting, because isn't that what they're supposed to not be doing? Isn't it supposed to be not color of your skin that matters? It matters the policy. It matters the size of government. It matters what happens. And for him, no.
Tell that to a guy who's been called an Uncle Tom, Eric.
But my point is, Alan West epitomizes everything a conservative is, and it has nothing to do with the color of his skin. For him to mention the color of his skin in his speech there, where he was really going after government and liberals and the size and growth in government and spending, it kind of cheapens it. It lowers the effect, at least for me.
Well, that's because you self-tanned. So you take it sensitively. No, but you lead me to this next thought, because this is Alan West discussed this on Greta last night. Can we show that?
Because when you look at black Americans that are conservatives, look at how they have been viciously attacked. Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, Michael Steele, myself, Tim Scott, Neil Love. Anytime you see people stand up and they swim against the current, especially as a minority conservative, but definitely a black conservative, the other side comes at them viciously.
Can I just point something out? Who cares? Who cares what the other side does?
You have to, because that's the weapon they use.
Screw the other side.
So if they call you a racist, you're supposed to say okay. If they call you a token, you're supposed to say okay.
No,
you're fine with that.
Here's what I stand for. I stand for smaller government. I stand for less spending, keeping more of your own money, and forget what color of my skin, because I don't care.
I don't think he's talking about that. I think he's trying to talk about fighting the tactics that the left uses to marginalize blacks. You have to, sooner or later, you got to address that, and you got to point it out to the young people that don't see what's being done, what's being manipulated.
Hey, Greg, honestly, with Mia Love, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Scott, on down the line, I think the young people are going to realize that the Republicans don't care about the color of skin anymore.
However, I was just thinking, in some ways, you could take the fight for gay marriage. If you look at somebody like Ellen DeGeneres, who decided that she was going to be courageous. She did the coming out on the sitcom, and then she has continued to talk about it and push that issue. She knows that when people go to talk to her, if she were to talk about, like, pick any other garden variety topic, what they really want to know is, but how will you help us on gay marriage? So it's like the elephant in the room. They are black or they are Hispanic, and these two gentlemen that we've shown so far. If you look at Rubio, Cruz, everybody writes the stories. When you pick the story up in the morning, it's going to refer to them being Hispanic or black, so they just take it on rather than ignoring it and say, all right, I'm going to embrace it, I'm going to talk about it, because otherwise, on the conservative side, no one wants to talk about it at all, and then we end up losing. And I think we should win.
I hate to give advice to Republicans or conservatives, but
they will not take it, Bob.
I know they won't, but it would be something to think about, which is that because the Republican Party has such good ties in the business community, if you want to make a statement in a minority community, convince some of those businesses to open up businesses in the minority community and begin to hire people. That will get some attention, because right now it is fixed in the minds of minorities that Republicans and conservatives are out to get them. You could argue that...
Like the big banks? Because all the big banks are run by liberals, so why don't the big banks have more jobs?
Who stops Walmart from going into cities? It's not conservative, it's liberals.
You can argue. Look, you can argue what the liberals do or don't do about this. I'm saying as a positive thing, it seemed to me to make sense to get some businesses opened up in minority communities and provide jobs.
But that's what I don't understand. Like, what businesses? Because if you take what would be some of the businesses you'd want to go in, like Walmart, grocery stores, like a Home Depot, that type of thing. Well, those are places, those are businesses that do business where they can best get a permit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the other thing, is that some of these businesses, yeah, they'd love to be able to build on a brown field. You can't get the permits to be able to do that, so they go where the business is going to be the best.
I can't imagine a big city mayor, almost all of whom are Democrats, who would not want to have
A Walmart?
Even a Walmart. But I'll tell you, take for example,
they get a tremendous amount of
Stop that. White liberals.
Take for example, Federal Express and DHL. If they decided to open up transit points in minority communities, they provide a lot of jobs. There's just one thought, but I mean, it just seems to me that you can talk about this all you want, but in the black community, and frankly, there has been very little they can look at tangibly from Republicans that have made their lives better.
Like faith-based initiative, No Child Left Behind, things like that address how government could actually do a better job to help their community.
What I'm saying is they don't see that as something that's
right, and that's why I think West and Scott are doing the right thing by going out and just talking about it full on and saying, you're going to look at me and I'm going to look different from a lot of other Republicans you might know, but let me tell you why I am. And I think they're being very effective. Clearly, since we're talking about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good approach. I mean, I personally don't want to shy away from it. I'm a Puerto Rican woman. I like it.
Oh, you're the elephant. That's the elephant in the room. I wondered what it was.
But I have no problem talking about it. I think it's good to do that and do the kind of outreach and encourage minority communities to get active and to understand the elements of the, conservatism and of the Republican Party, so that they understand that they have principles and an ideology that's actually really right on the mark for them in terms of the focus on family and religion and building communities and education.
But you got to take the message to them. That's it.
Well, that's, look, that's what people get hired for.
All right, let's wrap this thing up, okay?